It has been so great to be able to ask the students questions and to hear from you what all of you are wanting for Adeline now and in the future. So I'm really excited to share with you. Hi to all of you watching. So let me just dive into the results. Now, to give you a little bit of background, I'm Heather Haxel Phillips. I am Adeline Yoga's programming director, studio owner, and one of the lead teachers at Adeline. We're based in Berkeley, California, but of course we're fully online and really excited to be offering online programming for those who are interested in developing a meaningful yoga practice that sustains them both physically, mentally, emotionally, and in all other ways. So let me just dive in to the results. I want to tell you that I am one of these people who stands at Rainbow Grocery in the area of Rainbow Grocery where all of the feedback is given. And if I have time, will stay there for hours reading all the filled out cards where people are giving their ideas and thoughts about the grocery store or about the products and hearing what the staff say. So I totally love this sort of thing. The way I'm going to be organizing the results is I'm going to give you some general overviews of what people said, tell you a little bit about what we're planning into the future, and then I'll go into the specifics, because a lot of you asked really great questions, and I want to give you answers and give you a sense of where we're going, not just generally, but really specifically with your questions. So you can just watch the beginning and get the general overview, or stay for the end and get the nitty-gritty. Let me go ahead and dive in here to the survey results. So in our survey, we asked a couple of questions that helped to give us a sense of what were your reasons for starting a yoga practice. The majority of you said you wanted to start yoga to get more active and mobile, more athletic, fit, and healthy. Definitely people are interested in flexibility, but equally interested in the physical, feeling physically better, feeling mentally better, and emotionally better. And many of you said, yes, definitely you're coming to manage pain, but it seemed to me from the results that there was a general desire and interest to use yoga to help with mobility, help with being active and being healthy and fit in all different levels. Also, many of you said that you wanted peace and quiet and that you were using yoga for the calming, for centering of the mind. Then the next question we asked is, what are your reasons for starting at Adeline specifically? And the majority of you said, overwhelmingly said, that it was Iyengar yoga, that you really appreciated that it was authentic, that it was holistic, and that it was individualized even in a group class. Many people mentioned the precision, the conscious practice, that consciousness focus, not just consciousness, but that there was a mindfulness and an intention in the practice. The safety focus of it was also really attractive to you. So that warmed my heart on so many levels, because that's what I love about Iyengar yoga as well. Other reasons for starting specifically at Adeline Yoga goes back to what I said earlier, was this interest in physical fitness, motion, strength, flexibility, and balance, as well as the mental and emotional well-being, the components of becoming more quiet, becoming more aware, the stress and anxiety reduction aspects. Yeah. Now, we definitely heard overwhelmingly that Adeline Yoga has provided you with expertly trained and high quality teachers. And that also, of course, really warmed my heart, because I watch our teachers and just how much they put in terms of thought into each class that they teach, as well as into their own personal practice and ongoing education. Prior to the pandemic, all of us as teachers were traveling great distances to do ongoing education. And now that we're in an online format, we've had opportunities to study with folks in Pune and folks all over the world according to our specialties. Our teachers put a huge investment of money and time into their own training. That's something that makes us unique. When you work with a lawyer or even when you work with a doctor, they're not necessarily doing weekly and monthly and yearly trainings with the same level of intensity. Even with other fitness instructors or other types of yoga, there just isn't quite that emphasis. So it was really heartwarming to me and validating to see that that is one of the main reasons why you come to Adeline Yoga. Pain and injury management and recovery is something that was mentioned a lot, as well as the quality and diversity of Adeline Yoga's classes, our programming in general. A significant amount of you are coming for a spiritual practice, that you really have appreciated the programming and the spiritual quality of what we do without being religious. People mentioned our teachers and our environment as being kind, attentive, enthusiastic, and a gentle environment to learn. I just love that. I have found that to be very special about Adeline Yoga as well. So I appreciated hearing how many of you felt that our social and racial justice and inclusivity efforts were one of the things that you love most about Adeline, that you feel accepted and supported with your existing injuries, with your existing body and mind, and you feel that you enjoy being at Adeline because you're not self-conscious. That really is so important. So that's an overview of some of the reasons why people come to start a practice at Adeline Yoga. So what's keeping you here now? Again, the overwhelming majority said the amazing, skilled, knowledgeable, and accessible teachers. Thank you so much for saying that. One of the things that you also said is that the community, the cohesiveness, the inclusivity, the welcoming nature, and especially many of you mentioned the non-competitive and caring environment is keeping you in Adeline Yoga. Going back to some of the original reasons why you even started yoga and started at Adeline is the strength that you get, the stability and balance that you're achieving in your body, as well as the emotional wellness, feeling that deep sense of peace and calm. A significant amount of you said that you have a feeling of shared values at Adeline, that shared values and leadership around accessibility, social, and community justice work is important, and it's what's keeping you here. I've already mentioned several times, because it came up throughout the survey, the spiritual and mindfulness, that meditative component, and I hope that will even increase those components in the years to come, as well as pain reduction has been important. Many of you appreciated the generous funds that have gone into supporting people's practice during financial hardship, as well as the individualized attention and feedback that you get even on Zoom. And one of the things that I appreciated in particular was that at least one of you said that this is the least westernized yogic form of yoga that you've been able to find available. And I definitely was touched by that, because it's something that we teachers and staff have put a lot of thought and effort into. Our connection to India and to Vedic traditions and to Indian people is really strong. South Asia in general, this is the seat of all of the learnings, and we have worked hard on our cultural appreciation and looked at ourselves when it comes to topics related to cultural appropriation. This is thoughtful work that we're doing, and I am so happy that you all have felt that that is coming across for you. Now, it is spring, and we are seeing that some people are finding ways to not come to class. And so we wanted to know, what is stopping you from coming to class? And those who answered that question said that having their cameras on and having computer fatigue has been very real for them. And I can definitely understand that. I have a couple of thoughts to share. Others said that you've been enjoying a self-directed home practice. And I'm really glad for that, because ultimately yoga is the path that you walk on your own. Definitely you need teachers to direct you, teachers to pick you up, teachers to help you learn about the traditions and about the offerings. But ultimately that self-directed home practice is nectar. And I hope that all of you will use your time at Adeline to propel you ultimately in your own home practice. So that was a good reason to stop practicing with some of the classes, that's for sure. Now, I was curious, what other things do you all do besides yoga? And this was a really cool answer. So the most of you enjoy walking or hiking, and you enjoy it because you can be alone with your thoughts or a podcast. And that's what I find for myself. I've been walking in the redwoods a lot, and I enjoy being alone with my thoughts and just hanging out with the trees. While I do listen, I have some podcasts that I love. And if you want to comment below on your favorite podcast, that would be really fun to share. 10% Happier is one of my favorite podcasts. And then I have some naughty indulgences as well. But 10% Happier is one that I listen to a lot, as well as, of course, I love Terry Gross. And a new podcast, Michael Bryan, who's an Iyengar yoga teacher based in the Bahamas, he has an amazing Iyengar yoga podcast. And you might want to check that one out. I think it's something like Iyengar Yoga or Live with Michael Bryan, Mychal, Michael Bryan. Anyhow, so the majority of you love walking and hiking, not just to be alone with your thoughts or a podcast, but because it fits flexibly into your schedule and you really appreciate the fresh air, the fact that it's free, as well as the beauty of being in the nature, the warmth of the sun, and that sort of thing. Mindfulness and meditation is another movement or stress reduction practice that you have been working with. Pilates and biking. We had the feeling that a lot of our students were cyclists, and so this affirmed that. Also, many of you like to garden, dance, run, do qigong, and swimming. We've got a lot of swimmers. Another thing that was mentioned is chanting and bhajans, getting a connection with the divine for joy and relaxation. So that was really great to hear. Now, let's talk about what are some of your biggest concerns. What did some of you say was your biggest concern about getting back into the yoga studio now? And the vast majority of you said it was a tight space and there was crowding. And I will say thank you so much for saying that, because we do have a small one-room studio in Berkeley. And if it was at capacity, or when it was at capacity, it was tight. There is no doubt about it. So it was really helpful for me to hear from you that that was your number one concern. And another concern, which was just below it, was the continued threat and uncertainty of COVID and its variants. Many of you also said that the commute time, as well as traffic, was an issue, and parking included, though I will say our studio has free and plentiful parking around it, but the commute time and the traffic considerations are definitely real. Another really popular answer was not living close enough to attend in person and just preferring Zoom classes at home for now. So let's just talk about that. It's real. And it's definitely influencing our thoughts about how and when we're going to start in-class programs again. I think I'd like to go through a little more of these answers, and then I'll talk with you a little bit about what I'm thinking about restarting. Many of you said that you like the privacy that you get on Zoom in terms of being able to explore and sit with your emotional, mental, and physical state. And I also have found that. I have found that being physically in a space affects me tremendously emotionally and mentally. And I have liked being in my home space because I get a very positive effect. I know not everybody does. So this is something that we're going to be considering as we move forward, how we can not just keep, but strengthen our online programming so that those of you who really have appreciated the privacy of being at home, physically at home, can keep doing that. Many of you mentioned the stress and the cognitive load of uncertainty and big change from what we've become used to over the last year. And I thank you for that comment because I also am thinking about that. As we are facing reopening, it actually in some ways feels more stressful. At least for many of you have mentioned that, and I have felt that there's a cognitive load of uncertainty that I personally feel now, a level of anxiety and stress that I feel now that I've had my first shot. I don't really feel personally ready to go back into a lot of running around and a lot of in-person meetings. I've treasured my privacy. I've treasured being at home. I've treasured that quiet. And so as we're thinking about reopening, we're going to definitely be keeping that in mind, that many of you want to continue in that way. Some of you asked, am I going to lose access to recorded classes? No, you won't. Will you be able to continue to take more advanced classes? Yes, you will. So many of you told us also what were your concerns about practicing online. And I'd like to talk about that right now. If some of you are watching, you haven't yet started classes with Adeline Yoga, and you have some concerns about what it would be like, I want to share that with you because we have evolved as a yoga center in the last year, and what you may have tried a year ago is different now. So online fatigue and Zoom burnout, that's definitely real. We have found over the last year a lot of ways that we can mitigate the burnout, in part because you don't have to stare at a screen with us. We don't demonstrate all that often. Iyengar Yoga is known for good demonstrations, and we're certainly capable of doing good demonstrations, but we have found a really nice flow to the class where you don't feel like you're always staring at the screen, but in fact, you're able to be internalized. Some of you said that there was a lack of space at home, and I would encourage you to reach out to us, and we can talk and even zoom in and look at some places in your house that might be a surprisingly good fit. We've gotten really creative. So you can email info@adelineyoga.com if you're interested in starting an online practice, but you're worried about the space. Let's talk about it, because you'd be amazed at what we have figured out with students. Really, you just need a mat-sized space, and your family, they come in and out. We definitely have had dogs and parents and spouses and grandparents, and it's all good. We've learned over the last year that it's all good, and have been able to kind of mitigate the negativity of that potential and actually make it nice and good. Some of you have been concerned that you won't get as much personal feedback and adjustments and communication from the teachers. And others of you have said that you've gotten more than you wanted. It's really important to communicate with your teachers one-on-one. So at the beginning of class, all of our teachers are there 10 minutes before so that you can chat with them either by opening your mic or on the chat function. And you can do it personally one-on-one. I would say as a teacher that my students could communicate with me even more, letting me know, hey, I really like personal feedback, or letting me know, I'm not really interested in being seen today. I'm just going to keep my camera off. As a teacher, I am teaching to the people in the room, and if I can't see you It's difficult for me to embrace you energetically, but it's not impossible. I have several students who come on, put their camera on at the beginning of class to say hello, and for me to be able to say hello and just to make that connection with each other, and then they'll turn their camera off during the class. And I think that works really well. In that way, I feel that I can teach them adequately because I have had a connection with them, and they feel good. Some students don't like to have their camera on during class, and to me, that's totally okay. But as a teacher, because I am taking what I do so seriously, it's really helpful for me to be able to connect with you, at least in the beginning of the class, whether it's the camera on for a few moments or using the chat function. I want to know what my students are interested in. And if you want feedback, I will be happy to give it to you. And if you don't want feedback, that's also totally okay, because I know sometimes just showing up to class feels like enough. I definitely experienced that myself, so I totally know. And all of our teachers, I would say, feel that way as well. That dialogue at the beginning of class is so helpful. Some of you were concerned about safety and the skill of the teachers to manage so many people with such a small view of them. Well, I wanted to let you know that actually Adeline Yoga has a special fund just to help teachers with their equipment. And we've actually done mini grants for any teacher that wants to upgrade their equipment, specifically so they would be able to have monitors that are big enough to see you. So you may be using a smaller computer that works well because you're just on speaker view, but know that most of our teachers actually have bigger monitors and can see you pretty well. I would say as a teacher that I actually am able to provide more safety than I was able to do in person, in part because I can see 25 people all at one time much, much better than I could see 25 people live in a room. So I would say personally for me that it's been easier to provide safety. It's been easier to provide a personalized experience. And if you feel like you have questions, you should definitely ask your teacher. Maybe you want to ask before class, maybe you want to ask after class. Sometimes during class it's appropriate, but this is where having a little check-in with the teacher can be really, really helpful. Now, cost. Some of you were concerned about the cost. And I will say that Adeline Yoga, we've put a lot of thought into the cost of our classes. As I mentioned earlier, we have professional teachers who rely on their income from Adeline Yoga to pay their mortgages, to pay their rent, to pay for their kids. So it's important to us that we pay a living wage and that we compensate our teachers and our entire staff for the very high professional level at which they are bringing themselves every day. And at the same time, yoga has to be accessible. It has to be affordable. So we have at least 4 different accessibility programs. That is described on our website. If you go to the bottom of our website, there is an accessibility tab that you can click on. But we have a Yoga Blessings Fund, which provides scholarships and subsidies for all different kinds of our programs, from membership to workshops to our deep studies program. And we've also created, just in general, our monthly memberships for tremendous value. And there are quite a few of our students who are paying as little as $3 and $4 a class. So with uncertain kinds of memberships, it's amazing how much yoga you can do for very, very little. I don't know that many places where you could take a yoga class for $3 or $4 a class, but you can at Adeline Yoga. So reach out to us. info@adelineyoga.com is a great place to start to learn about those 2 programs, as well as some of the other options that we have for lower cost, low cost. And of course, we do have free classes all the time. And many of you actually mentioned that in some of the questions that we were asking you, is that you appreciated that we were having so much free programming. And we'll do that as often as as we can. Some of you said that you were just worried about your own lack of motivation and your own lack of discipline when it comes to practicing at home. And I was curious about that. I was sort of wondering how often that would come up, whether a lack of motivation or a lack of discipline was an issue. It didn't sound like it was a big issue, but it is an issue. And I'd love to know more about that. You can comment below if you would like us to do more programs that help you build motivation and build discipline, because like I know some of my students, they do not want to practice until they get to class, and then they feel amazing afterwards. But the actual motivation to show up can be somewhat hard. And so I have some ideas. I just want to know how important it is if we should offer some programming to help with motivation and accountability. We are going to experiment. This was really helpful to know that is at least of interest to some of you. We're going to be launching a new fundamentals course. Hector is and I are going to do a fundamentals 6-week course that will help not just give you the fundamentals of Iyengar yoga, but get you practicing slowly, methodically, and building your energy, building your enlivenment over a 6-week period. That information is on our website. You can look under fundamentals. It's a newly revised course to really help with this building of discipline and this building of upliftment over a 6-week period. It's designed for beginners to Iyengar yoga. Now, some of you had concerns when practicing online about whether you're doing it right. And I will tell you that your teachers, they're watching, and we are making sure that our students are practicing safely. There isn't really such thing as doing it right or doing it wrong. There are optimal ways to practice. There are safe ways to practice. There are healthy ways to practice. And I think your knowledge and confidence is built over time with the repetition and consistency of connecting with your teachers. We are watching you and guiding you and helping you. So when you come to class, know that you're in good hands. And actually, I'll talk about that in a minute, but that was another piece of feedback that we got, was people feeling a high level of trust, feeling like they're in good hands at Adeline Yoga. Some of you said that what's keeping you away from online classes is a lack of time or having scheduling issues. We have made getting recordings a part of our membership so that can take some of the scheduling obstacle out of it as a member. If you become a monthly member, even at our very lowest level of the least amount of classes a month, you will get 4 to 5 classes every single week that you can use on recording. And some people are becoming members just so that they can get those recordings and take the classes when it's of most convenience. So that is an option. Some of you said that you're not so good with the computers and you're worried. Well, Inbal, our assistant manager, is really good at helping you figure out your technology. info@adelineyoga.com. If you would like her to help you get all set up, she has helped many of our students get set up with Zoom and getting set up with registering for classes. We think that having personalized attention and setting aside time for our students is really important, and we like doing it. So please don't hesitate to reach out in that way to info@adeline.com. Oh, excuse me, info@adelineyoga.com. Okay. I think that's enough for what's kind of stressing you out about being in person or being online. Let me get into a couple of other things before we wrap up. We asked, is there anything else that you'd like to know? And the vast majority of you said, yes, we love Adeline Yoga, thank you. So there were wonderful words of appreciation and admiration. And the biggest question was, are we going to continue to have online classes? Absolutely. The teachers of Adeline, myself included, really love online classes. we have been talking about how we're going to bring back in-person classes. I want to share with you very honestly that our priority is online classes right now. And there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, we know that COVID's lifespan is quite long. And though many of us are getting vaccinated, all of the scientists say that we will have a resurgence of COVID in the fall or in the winter, that we'll have some periods of reopening, but also some periods of closing down in our communities. And so it's really important to us at Adeline that we keep our online programming extremely strong. If you have been listening from the beginning, you've heard some of the reasons why people are loving the online programming so much. And especially if our communities are going to be opening and closing, we want to make sure that Adeline is here for you in a consistent way. That consistency of practice, dirga, kala, if for those of you who are Sanskrit and Yoga Sutra lovers, you know that the practice has to be consistent. The timing has to be consistent. The place has to be consistent. And so we are definitely going to continue to be online and even to improve our programming. That said, we do look forward to going back to the studio and seeing all of you. I think that this summer we will have pop-up type classes. We'll have some unique opportunities in a small group way to be at the studio and to meet the teachers. I don't think that we'll be starting group classes until September. That is my guess at this time. We as a staff said that we would review in May the plan, but that is what I can see right now in terms of the schedule and what people are feeling, that we'd rather keep our online programming really robust and offer more small group ad hoc pop-up type things, likely into the summer. We will have a hybrid model eventually in the sense that we'll have mostly online classes and then some in-person classes for sure, because it would be really nice to be together in person. We will continue to have access to recordings for sure. We will definitely continue to keep up the communication with you. Many of you said that you were really appreciating the level of communication. Some of you said, I feel like I'm getting emails every day. And the reality is, if you're signing up for classes and you're coming regularly, you are getting emails from us every day. But I don't know that it was all that different than being in person, because I saw many of you more than I even saw my best friends. And I guess online it's a little bit like that as well. So if you're registering for classes, you will be getting emails from us every day. We hope that you find the emails, whether it's reminders about classes you've registered for or updates about what's coming up, that you find that affirming and exciting. Many of you said that you admired our commitment to justice and equality, and I want to thank you for that. It is a huge part of what we do, and we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it as much, considering what we are doing. The amount of staff training and the way that we have organized our studio, we are busy doing, we are busy learning, we are busy evolving, and we don't always share all that with our community at large, though I'm hoping as we go through 2021 to share more what it is that we're doing. It can be difficult at times to just find the time to communicate all that we have going on in our hearts and in our minds. So in terms of the programming coming up, as I mentioned, we've been working hard on developing a fundamentals course, and we have some very innovative workshops coming up. We want to do more chanting, and we have a chanting program with Gita Beshgard coming up in 2 weeks, and we are looking at more yoga philosophy, dharma, and mindfulness programming as we get into the summer. I think that is all for now. I thank those of you who have been watching all the way to the end. Please feel free to comment or to write back to info@adelineyoga.com if you have any questions, if you would like help. It has been such a pleasure sharing with you from my heart to yours what we have going on at the studio. And I look forward to being with you more and more in the months and years to come. So bye for now.